a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Good morning, everyone. So it's 11 o'clock. I think we should get started. I know everybody's got busy schedules. And I think I can probably guess that the main interest here is, when's the lake going to get full? So we've got Corey from PAI who's going to walk us through the estimates of when that'll happen. And then we can obviously take any questions that you all have. So Corey, take it away.
Hello? Okay. Good morning, I guess still. So I believe this is probably going to be our last meeting that we're going to attend, but if you guys need us here again, we'll be happy to come back. The lake is at elevation 47. The lake full is at elevation 54. So we have 7 feet to go. It's been coming up steadily. There's been both well pumps running pretty much nonstop, I believe, since about the 11th of August. The water gets used by, there's other users for that well water. Some of the water goes to Don Lake and to the East Golf Course, and some of the water goes to the West Golf Course, and all the excess water goes into the lake. And so we modeled that. We modeled the lake as-built condition in terms of where the liner's installed, and we built a table of how the lake is going to progress. We can put it on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see it, or you have it, I believe. If we could show that. I don't know if you'll be able to read it. It's an Excel sheet, and it shows the change. It shows the inflow from the east, or from the west, Lake's West well pump. It shows the inflow from the 103rd Avenue well pump. It shows the water that's being used by the estimated water being used by the golf course, the estimated water going into the East Lake. Calculates the evaporation based on historical evaporation, not on actual evaporation, but on historical. And then shows how much the lake should change every day, because sometimes the water on the 103rd Avenue is diverted entirely over to Don Lake, and we get no fill on those particular days. And so we've monitored it, and we've recalibrated it, and where we're at today is we think we have a full lake on the 24th of November. So we actually... November? October. Thank you. Thank you.
Giving me a heart attack.
Yeah, so we think we have a full lake on October. Thanks for correcting me on that. And so what can change that is if any of the demands that pulls water away from the lake, like overseeding and those other kind of things that happen on the golf course, so there's some pressure on us to get the lake full. And then also what would be beneficial is any kind of rainstorm, but it doesn't appear we're going to get any of those this year. So we haven't seen, there's nothing on the horizon, and we don't see any rain. So it's quite a big drainage area, so a rainstorm could put water in the lake that would fill it much quicker. And we were hoping for one of those, but we haven't seen one. So that's where the lake fill is going. It's unfortunately a slow and boring kind of process. There's really not a whole lot of change, although I assume anybody that lives around the lake and looks at the lake has noticed that it's filling up, and it continues to get higher and higher. So we know that there's concern about the tires. We've heard about the tires from a number of different sources. The conversation about the tires was always a disposal-related issue and trying to control costs. There's always been a cost component to this project on virtually every decision that has been made. And since the tires were always in the lake and had been in the lake, the decision was to leave the tires in the lake. And so that's how they ended up back in the lake, because we didn't add them to the lake. They've always been in the lake. And for whatever reason, we thought we had them secured just like they were secured before, but they don't appear to want to be secured. So there's a bunch of them are floating around out there. So we are planning on gathering those up and probably most likely removing as many as we can from the lake. So that'll be the plan going forward on those. And then I don't think there's any other surprises. The awning was installed since the last time we talked, so that new awning on the pier is all complete. Once the fence will not come down until the lake is full, because we really don't want there's no reason to have any public access or foot traffic or anything like that around the lake or on the lake edges, so the fence will stay up until the lake is in place or in full. The floating dock cannot go back in the lake until the lake is full. So once that happens, we will bring the crane back out. We'll lift the dock, put it back into the lake, and we'll pull it around and reattach it to its piles. I think, is there anything else, Lon? Yeah, so I think that's what we have. There's a photograph of a staff gauge that's on the column of the pier, and if you could put that, yeah. So I don't know whose idea it was to put it up. I don't think it was mine. I don't know, Lon.
It was Mike's, I think.
Yeah. So RCSC asked us to add this, and so the floor of that concrete pad underneath the pier is 10 feet below water level, and so those are 1 foot, marks, and right now we're on the third one up, so that's why there's seven feet left to go. This is a photograph from yesterday, so you can see that you can watch it if anybody's interested in kind of figuring out how much we got to go. There's a actual gauge over there that you can go look at. So I thought you might be interested in that if you haven't seen it. And then there was one other photograph, which was the intake pipes. So there are 2 pipes that come from, these are in Cameo Drive, that go underneath Cameo Drive. The pipe on the left in the photograph that has the tape measure on it is larger in diameter and lower. That is the intake to the golf course pump station. And the pipe that's to the right in the photograph is the pipe that fills the lake. So that's the pipe that is delivering water to the lake right now. And so in order the other piece of work that we have left is we still are operating and maintaining a temporary pump system on the golf course. That is how the golf course gets its water to irrigate. That's how the water gets to the irrigation pump station. And until water gets to the top of the intake pipe, we're not able to remove that system. So if any of you are golfers and wondering what the timing is of that pipeline that lays on the ground along I guess it must be hole 4, that pipe can't come out and that pump can't come out until the water gets to the top of that pipe. So I think that's really the only updates I have, unless there are some questions. Or Kevin, yeah.
The floating dock out in the water, there's pads where the floating dock that has legs, right?
Yeah, it sits on columns. So yeah, there are columns. Yeah.
So that it won't poke holes in the liner.
So when the dock was installed, those pile were driven through the existing liner and actually poked holes in the bottom. because there's no way to install, it's very difficult to install those underwater when the lake was full. What we did is we dug holes, we extended those pipes. Those are the same pipes, the same pipe columns that were there before, but we made them longer by welding an extension onto them, and then we dug a hole, we buried them into the ground. The pipe goes in 3 foot, the hole's 4 feet, and that's concreted in place now. And then we did a liner seal to it, so the liner is sealed to that now.
And the other thing that, for the people out there, every inch the lake goes up takes longer because it's getting bigger.
Yeah, so the model models that. Basically, there's, I don't remember the exact number, but there's 18.2 acres on the floor. Once we got to approximate elevation 42, there's a couple of holes below that elevation, but once we got to that elevation, the entire bottom of the lake was flooded. That was 18 acres, and when you get to the top, there's 33 acres. So as the surface area grows, the rate that the lake's going to come up is going to slow down. So it's not going to appear to fill as fast. It gets slower and slower. Assuming you put the same amount of water in every day, it's going to take longer to add that next inch. And the model that we prepared takes that into account.
Steve, you were actually paying attention in geometry class, huh? I'm impressed. So I think we can open the floor to questions if there are no other information to pass along.
What's going to happen with the blue dot?
The blue dock.
It's the dot laying on the wall at the far end.
Oh, that's the floating pier.
Oh, that's a floating dock.
Yeah, floating.
That's a floating dock that the homeowner has made in the past, and what will happen as the lake rises, we'll guide it back into position. Yeah, there's one other one of those over there on the opposite end of the lake, too. Only if we need to. We just monitor it right now, make sure that we have the right amount of shade in the water. That prohibits the algae growth.
Will that take over with RCSC, like if it starts getting icky, that's their responsibility then?
Yeah, that's up to their team when we're done.
So we are responsible for the lake until we turn it over. We haven't turned it over. We can't turn it over until we get it back full. That's part of our contract. And so as we, particularly you two, down on your end of the lake, you noticed how green it got when it sat there for a short period of time. And so when you take 18 acres of black bottom lake and you put 6 inches of water in it and you have 100-degree days, it's going to all turn green pretty quick. And so the decision when we talked to our lake maintenance partners was to put the dye in, and it's going to continually be diluted. So if it's something that's objectionable from how RCSC wants to operate the lake, it's gonna go to a much smaller concentration as you continue to put more water in. But as we were filling it, we didn't want the green water problem that we would have ended up with. Well, that's not, on an ongoing basis, it's not going to be our issue, and we're not going to be involved, just so we're all clear. So that's what Lon meant was, as RCSC and how they manage it and what they do, that'll be their decision. Yeah.
Kevin? Yeah. Question again. Our two aerator fountains, I call them fountains, but they're actually aerator devices. When are you anticipate them going back on?
When the lake is full.
When the lake is full, not before. Okay.
But I think you mentioned two. There's four of them.
There's four?
Four of them. Yeah, there's four of them.
What about launching the boats and stuff, not until it's full?
Well, so our date, the lake would be full on the 24th. When RCSC wants to let you put boats in the water will be their decision. But we'd probably like to see it sometime after the 1st of November, so that we have time to walk through and do the things that we need to do, so.
And I think for safety reasons, we'd like to get the dock in the water and have the lake full before people start bringing their boats back onto the lake.
Any word on, over by the ramp?
Yeah, can we use microphone for that?
Probably is.
There you go.
Is there any word on a dock or a ramp, by the ramp, putting a kayak? I mean, it was discussed a little bit, but any further?
So we had some designs put together, but then when we costed it out, it was prohibitive from a cost perspective. What we're looking at now is whether we can retrofit something onto the floating dock.
Yeah.
That would make that easier to launch a kayak or a paddleboard from the community dock.
Hey, you guys, it's a beautiful job. The lake's coming out beautiful. Thank you all for your work on that. It's a stressful job that you got done, and it looks beautiful. The boat removal, JR Boat Removals, who took our pontoons out, and I've called the number, and I've got, earlier in spring, I want to have my pontoon restored so it looks as beautiful as the lake. And so is there any other boat removal service anybody knows of, or any pontoon carriers around? We used to have one that was homemade that I used once 15 years ago, but I don't know what happened to that. So
JR's planning to come back and put the boats in the water.
he's what?
He's planning to put the
Well, I know his plan was, and I got the phone number, but there's no answer there, or it was,
Yeah,
I left a message there and called back 2 times in June. I called him. So he's still around?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
I'm just curious. We've historically drawn about the same amount of water out of the ground every year, but now we're drawing a lot out to fill the lake. Is there worry of subsidence of homes and things?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
No. I thought you were going to ask if ADWR was going to look with
Oh, no.
askance at that. We got the permission from them to refill, so
Okay.
we're clear there. As far as, ground subsistence from pumping that amount of water, I'm not aware of that happening, no.
Okay. And also, I moved to Sun City, so I forget stuff. Could all of you introduce yourself and your title?
Sure. Kevin McCurdy, acting GM.
Just to add to that, I'm Brian Duthu, Director of Golf. Prior to the lake lining, we were probably running those pumps probably the same amount of time that we're running right now, just to replace the amount of water that we were losing to seepage and evaporation. So we're probably not really pulling out that much water right now than we normally would be this time of year. The hope is that once the lake gets full, then we won't have to be running them as frequently as we did before.
I'm John Nowakowski. I'm a board member. One of the things that happened is when there was a changeover of the directors to this association, I was put on as president because I was the president of the RC at the time. When that switched and I was no longer president, because of the amount of hassle of paperwork involved to get the new president onto this association with the corporate documents, the banking documents and all of that, we just kind of said it isn't worth the effort. So that's why I'm still here instead of President Fimmel being here. That's why you're seeing me.
My name's Steve Collins. I'm a board director, and I was vice president at the time, but same thing. Karen McAdam is the new vice president, but rather than go through all the paperwork, I just stayed for the remainder of this year. Thank you.
Okay. Lon, you'd be sad if I didn't say something.
Right.
When I came here today, I had one word for you guys, one word: entertainment. The best entertainment I've had in years. Ringside seat entertainment. It was great, fun. I had fun. But I do have a question. I spoke to you before, Lon, about the 8 drains on Del Webb. I thought they came into that bigger pipe. Have you determined where those come in?
No, we've done quite a bit of investigation that we could, looking over some old drawings and stuff. The 2 little pipes, I think, are the ones that you're referring to. We could never find where they're off to.
When you talk about 8 pipes, you're talking about
There's 8 street drains on Del Webb.
Right.
Tremendous amount of water comes through there.
So there are, I don't remember the number right now, I don't have the plan in front of us, but every pipe that came into the lake is still coming into the lake. So we resealed and graded around and reattached every pipe. So any connection to the outside drainage system is still all in place on the new lake.
The big drain where you're pumping out to the golf course, is that gravity filled?
It's a gravity pipeline, yes.
It's gravity, yeah, because when they built that, I thought they were digging down to China, but they said it was for the gravity field.
Right, so there's what's called a wet well, so there's a vertical standpipe that's over on the golf course, and the pipe is connected from the lake to that wet well, and inside that wet well are a bunch of vertical pipe columns, and they pump out of that wet well, and the connector pipe is a gravity pipe.
Oh, okay, good. I have been asked to speak about the swans. A lot of people asking about the swans coming back. I was swan mom for 15 years. We had 20-some swans when I started. The problem, the old walls, the swans were contained. They could not get out of the lake. The new walls, if the swans can get out of the lake by themselves, you cannot have swans in the lake. You can have swans in the park if you contain the park where they're safe at the park. We can tell when the Canada geese come in, if the Canada geese can climb up the new walls, the swans will be able to climb up the new walls. So that's a consideration. Also, in my opinion, which means nothing, I think the rec center should own the swans and not the people. 47 years, the Viewpoint Lake homeowners owned the swans, supported them 100% in money and in labor. Okay, it's time for the rec center to take over the care of the swans. We don't have a vote, that's up to you guys. Okay, I have a budget, we had a budget and all that stuff, so we did all the fundraising, we did all the money and everything. And also, we have submitted, one of our members have submitted names for the new paddle boats. Swan George was 31 years on Viewpoint Lake. He had 3 wives, and all of their babies had babies, okay? The swans we moved out of here, Cameo and Gina, are descendants of Swan George, okay? And Ebony was our black swan, okay? So the boats should be named George, Ebony, Cameo, and Gina, okay? So that's our suggestion, and we get to vote. All you homeowners, you get to vote, okay? Everybody gets a vote on the names, okay? So that's the names you have. But anyway, entertainment, great entertainment. Thanks. Thanks.
Not getting off that easy. I'm Mary Ann Heinrich, and I have a couple comments from other homeowners who cannot be here, and then I have a few for myself. There was apparently part of the liner blew up during one of the big storms onto people's property. If those people are coming back now and find damage, substantial damage, where do they go?
Contact us.
You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lawn is still our contact, and if there are any issues, we need to work through them.
Okay. I don't anticipate any, but the homeowners haven't come back, so I don't know. And I know, Lon, I think you walked the property to see, but I don't know. For the boats that may come in, kayaks and such, kayaks, paddleboards, canoes, those kind of things for people who are not on the lake, is there going to be a permitting system or an approval system or something so that they don't bring in mussels or weeds or non-our lake entities that could cause problems? Because I live on a lake in Illinois, and that's a big issue for us. And I can see that happening here with the way that the people would bring things in.
You want to take that, Chris?
Is this on? I would refer back to Board Policy 10, which gives the guidelines to individuals bringing boats on the lake. And I don't know if it specifically states as boats or watercraft, but we would expect the same type of cleaning of the items that are coming into the lake, and it may just be a review of BP 10 to expand that cleaning to those other watercraft vessels that get brought in.
I mean, we know that, but if you're talking about letting other people who do not live on the lake do that, they don't know that. And who's going to check?
There's no way to check to verify. We just have to communicate that. I mean, there is not a, today there's not a permitting process that says you attest that you have done this cleaning for any boats that are brought in. So
you should have one.
Yeah. It is a policy, and it is, I believe it's noted on the signage that is at the boat dock or the boat ramp today.
But do you think it's time to put kind of a policy in place so that that doesn't happen? I mean, you guys went through a lot of expense to make this lake nice. And if you're going to start having things like weeds or mussels or critters or algae, anything that comes in there, I mean, that just seems to be, it goes against everything that we've just worked for.
Yeah, the largest concern that we've had is golden algae, and that's what the cleaning process has been. And over the many years that we've been having the lake open, we've never had a golden algae problem. It has been something that boat owners have been consistently maintaining. But we can certainly consider an alternative process for that.
And boat owners are different than people who have kayaks or paddle boards. There's a different mindset there. They don't think about algae. They don't think about those kind of things. So I think it's worthwhile to consider putting some kind of a process in place to keep the integrity of the lake.
So noted.
The other thing is, as far as security, it was really easy by the boat ramp for people to crawl under or over, or coyotes to come in. Is there going to be a better system for securing that boat ramp area than was currently in place before?
I'm not sure we're changing the fencing over there at this point.
We put it back as original.
Yeah.
But people who have lived on the lake have said they've seen people climbing around and over to get in through there and then get into the park area. So just something to consider.
We can certainly take a look at it. Right now, we don't have any plans to change the configuration right now, but we can certainly look at that.
Yeah, I think, again, just because we've gone through all this, it would be prudent, and you don't want, as Nadine said too, the swans getting out or coyotes or something getting in. The last thing, for the boats that are in driveways and the docks that did not get put back in, how long are we going to allow after the lake is filled those to stay on property?
That's not something that we've issued any kind of guidance on.
I asked Showa today because I have neighbors who I can see next year at this time I'll be looking at the same ugly dock sitting in the backyard. And Showa said that falls on you guys.
Okay.
So
I'll talk to Showa.
Yeah, I wish you would, because I can see that that would be a problem. And the same thing with people's boats. I mean, you know, I can understand you don't want it in, you may not be able to get it in right that very minute, but there should be a timeline, and it should be a reasonable timeline so that people don't have to look at boats in driveways.
Yeah, we never intended to permanently change rules to allow people to permanently park a boat in their driveway, but.
And that's why I thought it was Showa, and they quickly said, no, no, no.
Well, Showa gave us a pass, for want of a better word, where they were not going to enforce that while the lake was being worked on. But,
Understood.
you know, I agree, this is not going to be a permanent change that Showa will make. They will go back at some point to the previous rule against permanent parking of boats and docks and yards.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Kevin, I would just add, again, RCSC doesn't have oversight of personal residences.
Yeah.
And so that really was an accommodation from Showa for not enforcing that compliance concern during the construction time period. So I think it really would fall back to them on their compliance tasks.
Trust me, that's why I was surprised when they came back so quickly with that answer. So, but thank you.
I would like to thank you. Everything went really well. And of course, you know, you panicked us when you said you're going to empty our lake, and we all got very nervous. But we've had answers for everything we've asked. And when you were behind, you said you were behind. You were upfront about everything, and I think you need a very good hand. You did a good job, and thank you.
You're here.
Thank you. The RCS team's been a great team. We've had a great relationship with them working through it. And really, I mean, we should be thanking you because you felt all the pain. I mean, for us, we do this kind of work all the time. So for us to look at an empty lake or tear something up or break something, we work on damaged lakes and damaged communities. We've worked on other projects that are similar to yours, and we really feel your pain because it's you know, it's noisy, dusty, disruptive. We understand all of that, but we also have to do our job. So we try to be aware of the issues. Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate you all coming. And we'll, just in case anybody is curious, we do want to have a lake reopening celebration. We're kind of still up in the air on the date because it obviously depends a lot on when the lake will be full. So we don't want to set a date and miss it. So more information to come on that, but we do plan on having some type of celebration to celebrate the fact that we're reopening the lake.
I mean, why, I'm sorry, why go through the extra cost when you wouldn't have to?
That'll be one of the options. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, team. Thank you, guys. Maybe when we
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.